Then we'll jump wherever you want to go if you want to. You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of people they ask me, well, why'd you go in this kind of business? And it just always down like my childhood. My parents would take me to different dance halls in this area, and that's where I got the love of country music in my veins. Plus we listened to the Grand Ole Opry and the Louisiana Hayride every weekend on the radio. And so anyway, I did all this stuff, and they'd always just say, "Let's go honky tonk," and they didn't used to say, "Well, let's go to so and so club or whatever." And most of the time, it was an old dance hall in Oak Hill called the Moosehead Tavern, and they had usually they'd have a big fight just about every Saturday night in Oak Hill. And a lot of times they didn't even really use the word Moosehead. They said, "Well, I'm going honky tonkin' in Oak Hill or whatever," and that was Saturday night. But anyway, it was that's kind of what got my love of country music. And if I didn't have that, maybe I would have never went into this kind of business. But when I was in the army, I didn't know what I was going to do when I got out of the army. So I thought, it'd be kind of neat if I could open up a place of my own and take an idea out of other places that my parents would take me. Like the Fun of the Broken Spoke is very typical of other places that I went to when I was growing up. And they're scattered around, but those places, they're really not there anymore. I remember an old place called Johnny's Place right down there. It's kind of where Hooters is today, down there on South First and Barton Springs Road. And that was I know one of my favorite, but my stepdad, he loved that place. And my stepdad drank a lot of beer. And he knew a lot of beer drinkers. So my family was always into me having a place of my own. So I was in the army and I didn't know what I was going to do when I got out. And so I thought, well, it'd be kind of neat to open up a place similar to the places where I went when I was growing up. And I come from a mile down the road here on the right. That was my first home. And I've never really been too far from the Broken Spoke area here. And I've, it just became like a quest of mine. So when I came underneath the big old oak tree out front, I just kind of visualized a place like no other. And when I got it built, I named it the Broken Spoke. And the reason I thought up that name, I wanted something original. I wanted something country. I wanted something western, Texas style in my mind. And so I just thought about different names in my brain. I had a little list of different names I thought of. I wanted something original, and when it came to the Broken Spoke, I was thinking about wagons, and I got thinking about wagon wheels, and they were kind of rolling around in my brain. And then I thought, well, I remember this old Jimmy Stewart movie called Broken Arrow, and I said, well, hell, I'll just buy me a couple of wagon wheels. I'll knock a spoke out, and I'll put one on each side of the door coming in, and I'll name it the Broken Spoke. And I never looked back from that. And I built this place with the help of a lot of drinkers and our roofers. They're pretty good drunks also. One of them fell off the roof, and needless to say, none of my help, which I didn't really have to pay them anything, they just volunteered. It's kind of like you lift the hood up on your car, and a mechanic sees it, and they can't wait to get up there and start getting in there trying to help you fix your motor. Same way with building a building back in them days, they'd see all the construction, all the lumber, and they just start, hey, let me help you out, let me do this for you. And so, but I kid people, they didn't have any squares or levels, and they didn't know how to use no nail gun. Nail guns had just been invented, and the same with PVC pipe. PVC pipe had just started invented. Before then, it was hard steel, metal, or what they call Orangeburg pipe, which is collapsible pressed paper. But anyway, we got it together, and now that's kind of the start of the Broken Spoke. I had to open up about a week early than I wanted to because I run out of money. So I thought, well, I got enough money to buy 5 cases of beer. So I bought 5 cases of beer. Beer was 25 cents a bottle. I was bartending 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're selling beer 4 for $1. I'd pop 2 of them in each hand, and I got pretty good at that. And it just went on forever. I never got a break. If whatever food I ate standing up. I make a night deposit at the bank at 2 o'clock in the morning after I closed up and figured out what it was going to be. And back in them days, you didn't have a whole lot of the deposit anyway, because beer was 2 bits a bottle. We sold setup, which was a glass of ice and a small 7-Up or a small Coke, 6 ounce, and we'd get 30 cents for them. And that's when they would bring their own bottle back in those days. There was no mixed drinks in Texas. And most of the people that drank, they drank bourbon 7 or they drank bourbon Coke. And when they got through toward the end of the night, if they only had 2 or 3 inches of whiskey or bourbon in that bottle, they'd say, well, hell, ain't no sense in taking this home, let's drink it. So that's why, in a way, it's kind of good to have mixed drinks, so they don't get quite as drunk as what they used to when you did bring your own bottle. Thank goodness. But it was fun times. It was interesting to me, and I learned a lot. I had a lot of people tell me I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And
How old were you when you opened it?
I was 25. I was 25 years old, and the day I got out of the Army, the same day I started building the Broken Spoke. And they'd tell me that a lot of my people customers were older than me, so they probably did know more about the bar business than I did. And I didn't really have to take their advice, but I'd listen to them, because they'd say, oh, hell, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You won't last 6 months here, And so I just kept right on going, but I never looked back. And then those same people, they came in here, and after about 5 years, then they'll say, well, hell, you had everything going for you. There's no way you could have missed, But at the time, it's a complete turnaround after we started getting kind of famous. But being famous, we didn't really get what I call real famous till the late 80s. And then we started getting well known, not just in Austin. We were kind of the country cheers of South Austin. We lived it. That was my life. And the Broken Spoke is my life's work, because I've been here 54 years, and nobody has been in that kind of business longer than I have, because they'd have to start a hell of a lot younger. I don't think they could handle it. I look at some of these 25-year-old people today, and I'm thinking, hell, it's goddamn wonder that I was able to do what I did, because I look at some of the people today at 25, and they don't really seem that mature to me, But maybe I'm just getting old.
No, I agree with you. I'm 31, and I agree with you that 25 is more still like 18 these days.
Exactly.
Yeah, except they can drink, yeah.
Exactly.
You answered many of my first questions. Thank you for that introduction. I guess let's talk about B2. You said that B2 was Willie's booth.
Oh, yeah, we're sitting right here in B2. That's the booth. We started, at first we didn't have numbers for our tables, but my wife figured it would. My wife Annetta, she's kind of working half the family. I'm very fortunate that we've been married for 51 years, and we've been going together since 1961. But a lot of people, they'll ask me and say, well, where'd you meet your wife at? And I said, well, I met her in a honky tonk, and there's an old dance hall up there up before you got the old kill on the right, and it's called the Sportsman Inn. And I looked out on the dance floor, and I seen a pretty blonde-haired lady dancing with a red dress on, and it was a fast dance, and she caught my attention, caught my eye, and I thought, well, I'm going to ask that girl to dance, and that's where it all started right there. But anyway, she thought that since she's on the cash register and people come up to pay their bill, it's always easier to say, well, what table was you at, or was you at table so-and-so, or B 1, 2, 3, or 4. Anyway, right now we're sitting in B2, and this is kind of a famous booth because this is where Willie and Annie, his present wife, when they went together, they would come here and it seemed like they liked this booth right here. And
This is
Willie,
back in the 80s.
when they went together, oh darn, I'm trying to think if that was probably the 80s. It had to be the 80s. And anyway, I first booked Willie Nelson in 1967. I booked Willie Nelson and the Record Man for $800. And he had short hair, he was clean shaven, and he wore either a turtleneck or a vest or a sports coat. And but he's still the Willie Nelson that you see today. But it's people love to see the one picture I have of Willie hanging on the wall, and he has that picture in his office also. Me and him on stage at the Broken Spoke. In the first days when I booked him way back in the 60s. But we've always been, friends. I mean, Willie's got friends all over the world, but he always remembers the Broken Spoke, and he always comes back every chance he does get, and he stays very busy nowadays. But Annie is very good for Willie, and I think she keeps him in a lot better shape and keeps him better health than he ever has been. And that's why I always want to bring in Annie's name in this with Willie in this B2. And the booth right behind you here, B3, that was Mom and Pop Nelson's booth. And Willie had a pool hall down the street here where Manchac runs into South Lamar on the left down there close to where the Goodwill is. There was a little, kind of like a bar. It used to be kind of like a 7-Eleven, a small 7-Eleven, and not like the ones today. And you just pull in and get you something. Most of the time they didn't even have gasoline there. But anyway, then it turned into, Willie got it and turned into a pool hall, and he let his friends that he grew up with in Abbott run it. And then when Pop Nelson decided he wanted to move to Austin, he just, Willie more or less let Mom and Pop Nelson run the pool hall. And then Pop had a band, and it was a country music band, and I would book him from time to time. And when I booked Pop Nelson, Willie would come out and play all night for nothing. And that was way back in the, I'm thinking, maybe the 70s, 80s. The 80s, I think, is when he had the pool hall. Early 80s. But anyway, when Willie had a tax problem in 1990, my wife and I were sitting around, he owed $16.5 million. But my wife and I got mad because we heard that IRS had took all his pictures, and they took all of his awards off the wall, and they put them up for auction. And I didn't think it was right to take your family pictures and gold records and platinum records. And so anyway, we thought, well, we'll just take up the collection and we'll give it to Willie because they've taken everything he owns. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to get me a gallon dill pickle jar, and I'm going to put it on the bar, and I'm going to put where there's a Willie, there's a way. And people put money in it, and I'll give it to Willie because he's over in Hawaii and he can't get back to Texas. They took all his money. And so anyway, he heard about it, and he called me up from Hawaii, and he said, well, thank you for doing that. And then in the meantime, we had a fundraiser for Willie, and so we raised some money, and I sent it over to Hawaii by way of his daughter Lana Nelson. And they said that's all Willie talked about all day long was, man, they had a fundraiser for me at the Broken Spoke in Austin, and man, I appreciate that. He was very excited about it. So he called me up that night, and he said, well, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'm going to come home for Christmas, and I'm gonna bring my band. I want to eat a chicken fried steak, and I want to drink a cold beer, and I'm gonna do a little picking, and I'll bring some friends with me. And that's when he brought Chris Christopherson out here, and then in tow were all the local musicians like Gary P. Nunn and Joe Ely and Alvin Crow, Doug Som, just on and on the list of people that knew Willie and wanted to come out and be involved in it. So it's one of those nights that you never forget that happened. And I told him, I said, well, you didn't ask for my help, but I was doing it from the heart. And he said, well, I'm gonna thank you from the bottom of my heart. And so anyway, it was his way of saying thank you. He came out and played all night long, and it was very good. And that was 1990, and we helped bring people aware of the fact that Willie didn't have $16.5 million in his back pocket, and we raised some money for him, and I gave it to him, and I gave him every letter I received. It went to Associated Press. I helped that Bill Pickle Jar out in front of the Broken Spoke, and Associated Press run it all around the world, and I started getting money from Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Alabama Prison, I'm sorry, Birmingham Jail,
It's hilarious.
and reservations, and Indian reservations, and people were saying, well, me and Mom ain't got much. We got an old truck, Willie, you can borrow it and stay here, me and Mama on the reservation or whatever, And it was very heartfelt, and I never got one bad letter for Willie. No, all of them was complimentary. And Willie, if the check was $1, he autographed every check so they could at least would have his thank you and autograph for Willie Nelson. And he sent it back. And I know Annie told me at the time he was with Annie, and this was 1990, and she told me, she said, you got any long sleeve t-shirts? Because I give her t-shirts. And she said, because it's cold and IRS took all her clothes. And so I'm thinking, it's just another way of wanting something to march to and to raise up more awareness. So Gary P. Nunn and I, we came out with a song called Where There's a Willie, There's a Way. And I get to sing the last part of the song with Gary P. Nunn. And so I went on Willie's bus. I said, Willie, we came up with a song. We need something to march to. And so he said, well, how's it go? And so if you're going to do a song, I just kind of sang it to him a cappella. And he listened to every word. And at the end of it, he said, yeah, go ahead and do it. And so it was very, very, very good that he did that, because I just told Gary one time about the song, and Gary P. Nunn, he said, well, go ahead and let's do it. Something about well, with his trusty old guitar, he was looking for a star. Gave his heart and soul to Farmer's Aid. Now he's low and feeling blue. That internal revenue taxed old Willie more than he could pay. But we'll raise every dime, pay it back in 2-4 time. Where there's a Willie, there's a way. That kind of song, But on the way up there, Gary said, well, go over the last part of the song, and that's the one you'll sing. So on the way to Fort Worth, it's so funky old studio, I was going over this words. It was a tape. I was by myself. I was playing over and over again. Something about, I remember every note when he played the Broken Spoke, sang in the parking lot till dawn, tailgate barbecues, 'neath the big old Texas moon, wrote all our dreams into a song. There you go.
Clever. I like it. And it's funny because it kind of reminds me a little bit of his Stardust album. The Willie's kind of has you're right, it has a little bit of his tune in there.
Yeah, you got to kind of let it flow out. But it's fun to do the song like that, But it was, I think it's that intro, maybe they say that infernal revenue, I think what they used, the words. That infernal revenue taxed on Willie more than he can pay.
Did he ever get his awards back?
I think Willie got all of his property back except for like Mona's boat dock and a ranch in Colorado. And his friends bought his place on Fitzhugh Road and let Lana live in it the rest of her life. And I think Farm Aid chipped in. And they didn't take his house in Hawaii because he owed too much money on it. And then, little by little, he got most of it back. I don't know about the awards, but this is Trigger, the guitar he calls Trigger. This is a replica of Trigger. And all Willie told me was, he said, they can't take the smile off my face. And he asked somebody on the phone, I guess, from maybe Trigger was still here. And he said, well, they didn't get Trigger, did they? And they said, no, we got Trigger safe. And he said, well, we'll be okay then. But I heard that when they raided his golf course, all his friends were like one step ahead of him. They were like one step ahead of him. And they were taking the golf carts and just going every which way, hiding them, stashing them somewhere where they couldn't get everything.
I would have too. So
He did get the golf course back, and he did get his property back, and he still lives there, and he's still got Luck, Texas, his Wild West town.
And his last performance here was with Asleep at the Wheel, right? Like 2014 or so. I think I saw it on the website, give or take.
I'm trying to think if maybe he was here in, I can't remember whether that's 2015 or not, or 16. It's been about 2 years, I know, since he's been here.
Yeah. I actually went to high school with his nephew, Trevor Nelson, but I've never met Willie personally.
Which nephew?
Trevor. It's his brother's son.
I know him, yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking of the 80s and celebrity guests, I saw that Dolly Parton was here for Wild Texas Nights TV show. I've never heard of Wild Texas Nights.
It's a movie.
A series or a movie? Okay.
It's an NBC movie of the week.
What was it like having a movie set here?
I liked it. It's exciting. When Dolly, see, I get a lot of those country music hall of famers that do TV shows here or movies, or just want to come by and drop in just to say they've sang at the Broken Spoke.
Yeah.
And Dolly, she came here, and the director liked me, so they gave me a quick little part at the start of the movie, so I could say I was in the movie, And I had my own dressing room. I was a star for the day. But then it let me visit on site the sets for the rest of the time that she filmed. And plus, they always got security, and then she had her personal bodyguard. And I just kind of became friends with him because I would see him at different places. But it was really something to have Dolly Parton here. I mean, I could have never afforded to book her here. And she was very nice. I got a good picture of her. And I told the photographer, take all the time you want to, because she was giggling, bouncing up against me and hugging on me. And so why not take a long time? And he did take a long time. In fact, man, she kidded him. She said, are you sure you're Willie Nelson's photographer? The guy was telling her, I'll take all of Willie's photos. But, he really didn't take all of them. But the same guy, his name is Just Bill. He's down buried right up there in Luck, Texas, in Willie's little chapel. Right next to it is a little fake cemetery, but his grave is real. Just Bill, But anyway, I've been to 2 weddings in Willie's little chapel there. Atlanta got married one time to a guy who was in the movies, and she got married to Johnny Rodriguez up there. And that marriage didn't last too long.
Who's Lana?
Lana Nelson. That's
Oh.
Willie's oldest daughter.
Okay.
She's she's I really know Lana probably better than the rest of the children, and I've met the kids off and on someplace, mainly up there, at the Luck, Texas.
I've always been curious. This is a little bit of a sub note.
Oh, let me tell you the rest of Dolly.
Oh, sure.
Okay, the name of the movie, I've got the script because I was in the movie, and so it was called Big T. Was the name of the movie. It's thick, the script was like this thick, and I just had a couple lines in it because I was in the very start of the movie, and they called her Big T because her name was Thelma Lynn, so she's short. Ray Benson, who's tall, they called him Ben Racing. It's a play on words, And so Thelma Lynn, they'd say, "Hey, Big T," and just that kind of talk. So they was going to name Big T, and then NBC, the executives, they seen it, and they said, "There's no way NBC is going to call the movie a week on national TV Big T with Dolly Parton being the star." So they didn't do it. Now they could probably do it, but at the time, that was 1990, and they didn't do it, and Dolly never did get it. She didn't catch on. What's wrong with Big T? I'm Thelma Lynn. And I talked to her about it. She says, I didn't say nothing, and she was very, very innocent, I guess.
Yes, she seems that way. I wrote a story for, I don't know if you know about her Imagination Library, but Austin launched its first local branch. She has an Imagination Library with giving books to kids all over the world. It's all nonprofit. It's really cool what she does. Yes, it's really neat. She's given out millions of books to little kids.
Yeah, because she grew up dirt poor, evidently. Coat of Many Colors. I love that song.
Yes. Who created the George Strait bathroom? That cracks me up.
I give my wife all that credit.
I love that bathroom.
And my wife, she saves those George Strait pictures and she puts them on the wall, and she hates it when somebody steals one of them and takes home with her. But it's a big hit with the ladies. And anyway, it's George Strait is all over those walls in there, and that was her idea.
I like it.
My wife, Annetta. It's Annetta, Annetta. And she's kind of my right arm. I couldn't do it without her anymore because she just jumps in and does everything. She's a cancer survivor of over 10 years. And then she's also up here. She does a lot of paperwork and book work at home. And anymore, you got to do a lot of book work to run a business, even if it's a small business or big business, whatever. All we are is basically unpaid tax collectors for the government. We got to collect all the taxes and give to them, and we don't get no money for it. We spend a lot of our time jumping through all those hurdles and loops.
How did you go about booking back in the day? Did people come to you, or did you send out, public announcements that you were looking for musicians? And it seems like you've got some veterans now, like Weldon. He comes in the next door on Tuesdays, and Dale Watson. So I was just curious about the booking.
Well, I just kind of when I book a band, I do a gut instinct thing, and most of these bands, I know that I kind of I feel like they would draw, and if I don't know the band and the people don't know them, if I don't know them, more likely the people don't know them, I have them play up front from 6 to 8, and where they can at least have a little following when they go in the back. And I would rather them play at smaller venues before they play here, because there's no sense it doesn't matter if you're the best going band in Houston, people in Austin, they might not ever heard of you. And I hear that all the time. But at the very start, for my grand opening, I had a steel guitar player and a guitar picker, and they were right over here in the corner. And back in them days, 1964. If you had a new business, you just word of mouth say, hey, we're having a free barbecue at a new bar called the Broken Spoke.
So you've always had barbecue here?
Mm-hmm. Always. And so I gave out about 300 plates, which I couldn't afford really to give away. But I figured, maybe 20-30% of them people will come back, or maybe they'll tell somebody about it. And you have to do we're basically word of mouth business. I mean, now we got the internet, but before, back in '64, you didn't have no computers, you didn't have no cell phones, you didn't have none of that stuff. And you'd advertise in the paper, and that ad used to cost you $6, which was a 1x2. And later on, I got like a 1x3. And then on the radio, if you bought 500 spots, you could get them for maybe $1 a spot. But you can't do that no more. Radio spots cost you over $200 for a good spot. And then the newspaper is way over $1,000 a month if you advertise with them. And we're on the busiest streets in Austin. We're on South Lamar. I try to, they're visual. As far as visual, you can see the Broken Spoke and you know what it is. And I'm lucky now today that the cab drivers, they'll tell people, oh, you want to see a real authentic Texas place, you go to the Broken Spoke. And the same way with hotel people. Oh, you want, man, here, let me give you a list of 5 places you need to go. And we'll always be on that list. But it wasn't like that at first. I mean, you had to build on that. And I think that's why I always believe you should have a place of business that's not in a strip mall. It's individual set of building right in the middle where people can come in and they want to come there because they had never been there before. The secret is to get them to come back or show them a good time, treat them like you like to get treated when you go to a restaurant. You want to be acknowledged. You don't want to get gouged on the price of food or drinks, and you want to get entertained. And so we have the best entertainment. We have good food here and cold beer, and now we got mixed beverages. At first, we didn't have the mixed beverages.
How's it going?
I'm doing good.
Where's the light plug-in behind the bar?